The year is 1453. Imagine a time of empires and emperors, grand cities and epic battles. It is in this era of momentous change that our story unfolds. This is the story of Constantinople. Constantinople, at the crossroads of Europe and Asia, was a city unlike any other. Its strategic location made it the envy of emperors and the target of invaders. The city was renowned for its architectural marvels and vibrant cultural life. At its heart stood the Hagia Sophia, a masterpiece of Byzantine architecture. The walls of Constantinople could not forever hold back the tide of history. The weakened Byzantine Empire now faced the ambitious Sultan Mehmet II and his Ottoman Turks. In the spring of 1453, Mehmed and his army arrived at the gates of Constantinople. As the sun rose over Constantinople in 1453, it illuminated the Theodosian Walls. These were sentinels of stone, guardians of an empire stretching for 4 miles across the city. Built in the 5th century AD, they had repelled wave after wave of invaders. The Theodosian Walls were a complex system of fortifications. At their core stood the massive inner wall, towering over 60 feet high. Along its length rose imposing towers, each strategically placed to provide overlapping fields of fire. The Theodosian Walls were more than just a formidable wall and towers. In front of the inner wall lay a 60-foot-wide moat, a deep chasm designed to break up enemy formations. Beyond the moat stood the outer wall, a formidable barrier in its own right. The entire complex was a masterpiece of military engineering. In the spring of 1453, a shadow of doubt began to creep into the hearts of the defenders. The Ottomans, armed with a monstrous cannon, posed a new threat. The question on everyone's mind was, could the walls withstand the onslaught? Mehmed II, born in 1432, was destined for greatness. From a young age, he displayed a keen intellect and an ambition that knew no bounds. He dreamed of emulating great conquerors like Alexander the Great and Julius Caesar. Mehmed's grandfather provided him with the finest education available. The years Mehmed spent in Manisa were not wasted. He immersed himself in the study of statecraft and military strategy. He never forgot his dream of conquering Constantinople. He consulted with military engineers and artillery experts to devise a strategy. Mehmed knew that manpower alone would not be enough to breach the defences of Constantinople. He found his answer in the ingenuity of a Hungarian cannon maker named Orban. Orban promised Mehmed a cannon capable of smashing through the walls of Constantinople. Under Mehmed's patronage, Orban and his team created a behemoth of a weapon. In the heart of the Ottoman encampment, a monstrous creation was taking shape. The giant cannon, christened the Basilica gun, was a marvel of engineering. Its 8-meter-long barrel was awe-inspiring, dwarfing even the largest cannons of the time. The Basilica gun was designed to hurl enormous stone balls, each weighing 600 kilograms. These meticulously crafted spheres resembled the fist of an angry god. The cannon's operation required a team of over 100 oxen and an army of laborers. The cannon's crew treated their charge with a mixture of reverence and fear. Once in position, the Basilica gun unleashed its fury upon the walls of Constantinople. The earth shook with each thunderous blast, the air thick with the acrid smell of gunpowder. The defenders watched in dismay as the first stone balls crashed into the walls. The sound of each impact was a hammer blow to the defenders' morale. Day after day, the bombardment continued, the basilica gun pounding the walls. The defenders fought bravely, repairing the damage as best they could. Cracks appeared in the once impregnable defences. As the siege wore on, a sense of dread settled over Constantinople. The city now resembled a cornered animal, bracing itself for the final blow. The basilica gun had become the embodiment of the city's impending doom. The Ottoman noose tightened around Constantinople with each passing day. Sultan Mehmet II had meticulously planned for this siege, and his forces were relentless. The once bustling streets of Constantinople were now eerily quiet. The Ottoman army transformed the landscape surrounding the city into a reflection of their empire's vast reach. Inside the besieged city, Emperor Constantine XI Palaeologus, the last of the Roman emperors, rallied his beleaguered forces. Outnumbered 10-1, the defenders of Constantinople were a diverse but determined lot, bound by their love for their city and their faith. Veteran Byzantine soldiers stood shoulder to shoulder with Italian mercenaries, Genoese crossbowmen and volunteer citizens, all prepared to fight to the death to defend their homes and their heritage. Constantine, a devout Christian and a capable leader, understood the strategic importance of maintaining the morale of his people. He moved among them with quiet confidence, offering words of encouragement to weary soldiers and terrified citizens alike. He knew that their spirit, their unwavering belief in the righteousness of their cause, was as vital to their defense as the stones of their walls. Day and night, the Ottoman bombardment continued unabated. The basilica gun, that monstrous testament to Mehmed's ambition, hammered away at the city's defences, each earth-shuddering blast sending tremors through the very foundations of Constantinople. Stone balls, each a projectile of unimaginable destructive power, slammed into the Theodosian walls, reducing centuries-old masonry to rubble and showering the defenders with deadly fragments. But the defenders of Constantinople were not easily cowed. As fast as the Ottomans could inflict damage, the Byzantines, driven by desperation and fueled by their faith, laboured tirelessly to repair their crumbling defences. Working through the smoke and dust, dodging cannon fire and braving enemy arrows, they shored up weakened sections of the wall with whatever materials they could find. Timber, rubble, even the bodies of their fallen comrades. As the siege dragged on, weeks bleeding into an interminable month, the situation within Constantinople grew increasingly desperate. Food and water, once plentiful, became scarce. The constant bombardment, the lack of sleep, and the ever-present fear began to take their toll on the defenders and citizens alike. Sickness spread through the cramped and unsanitary conditions, claiming as many lives as enemy fire. The Golden Horn, a lifeline under threat. The Golden Horn, a shimmering inlet slicing northwards from the Bosporus, was more than just a picturesque waterway to the citizens of Constantinople. It was their lifeline, their connection to the outside world, a watery shield protecting their harbour and providing a vital route for supplies and reinforcements. As long as the Golden Horn remained under Byzantine control, there was hope. Hope that aid might arrive from their allies in the west. Hope that the city might yet withstand Sultan Mehmed's iron embrace. At the entrance to the Golden Horn, a massive chain, forged from thick iron links and buoyed by sturdy wooden floats, stretched across the water, barring entry to any hostile ship. This chain, a testament to Byzantine ingenuity, had protected their harbour for centuries, repelling countless attacks and ensuring the city's continued dominance over the waterways. The Sultan's dilemma. Mehmed II, surveying his siege lines from his opulent command tent, recognized the strategic importance of the Golden Horn. As long as the Byzantines controlled this vital waterway, his grip on Constantinople would remain tenuous. He had encircled the city by land, his troops forming an unbroken ring of steel around its landward walls, but the Golden Horn remained a thorn in his side, a potential avenue for escape or worse, for enemy reinforcements. The Sultan summoned his most trusted advisors, seasoned generals and experienced naval commanders, to discuss this dilemma. How could they breach the defenses of the Golden Horn and complete their encirclement of Constantinople? A direct naval assault, though tempting, was deemed too risky. The Byzantine fleet, though small, was commanded by skilled sailors, and the currents within the Golden Horn could be treacherous. A daring gambit. As the advisors debated, one man remained silent, his gaze fixed on the map spread out before them. This was not a man accustomed to speaking out of turn, for he was a relative newcomer to the Sultan's inner circle. His name was Zaganos Pasha, and he was a man of sharp intellect and boundless ambition, his rise through the ranks of the Ottoman bureaucracy meteoric. When Zaganos finally spoke, his voice was quiet but firm, commanding the attention of all present. He proposed a plan so audacious, so seemingly impossible, that even the battle-hardened generals in the tent gasped in astonishment. His plan was to bypass the chain altogether, to render it irrelevant, and to achieve this, he would need to do something that had never been done before. He would move ships over land. Ships on land. The plan, once articulated, seemed both ludicrous and brilliant in equal measure. Under cover of darkness, the Ottomans would construct a path of greased logs, a wooden roadway stretching for miles, from the Bosphorus over the hills of Galata and down to the waters of the Golden Horn. Then, using a combination of brute strength and ingenious engineering, they would haul their ships, their oars shipped, and their sails furled across this land bridge, circumventing the formidable chain and trapping the Byzantine fleet within the harbour. It was a logistical nightmare, a feat of engineering that pushed the limits of what was thought possible. But Mehmed, his imagination ignited by the sheer audacity of the plan, gave the order to proceed. Throughout the night, the sound of hammers pounding, ropes straining, and men shouting echoed through the Ottoman camp as, under the watchful eyes of their Sultan, they set about realizing Zaganos Pasha's vision. Constantinople Encircled. As dawn broke over Constantinople, casting an ethereal glow over the beleaguered city, the defenders on the walls rubbed their eyes in disbelief at the sight that greeted them. There, riding at anchor in the waters of the Golden Horn, previously thought impenetrable, was a flotilla of Ottoman warships, their banners fluttering in the morning breeze, their presence a stark reminder of the enemy's growing might and the city's increasingly precarious position. The chain, once a symbol of security, now seemed a paltry obstacle easily bypassed by Ottoman ingenuity and determination. The psychological impact on the defenders was devastating. The Golden Horn, their lifeline to the outside world, was severed. Constantinople was now truly surrounded, cut off from all hope of resupply or reinforcement, its fate hanging precariously in the balance. A hush fell over the Ottoman encampment as the sun dipped below the horizon, its last rays painting the sky in hues of blood orange and bruised violet. The relentless hammering and hauling, the shouts of officers and the clatter of arms all ceased as if an unseen hand had stifled the very breath of the siege. The air, thick with the smoke of countless campfires and the stench of death, grew heavy with anticipation. The final assault on Constantinople was about to begin. Inside his opulent command tent, illuminated by flickering oil lamps, Sultan Mehmed II knelt on a prayer rug, his forehead touching the richly woven fabric. He had staked everything on this siege, poured the resources of his vast empire and the unwavering faith of his loyal soldiers into this single-minded pursuit of Constantinople. Mehmed had offered the defenders of Constantinople one last chance to surrender, a chance to lay down their arms and open their gates to his conquering army. He had promised leniency, a guarantee of safety, and the preservation of their religious freedom. But the citizens of Constantinople, imbued with the legacy of their ancestors, clinging to the belief that their city, protected by God, would never fall, refused, and so, as the first pale light of dawn crept across the Bosphorus, painting the waters a silvery grey, the Ottoman armies surged forward, a wave of humanity crashing against the weathered walls of Constantinople. The Ottoman cannons, including the monstrous basilica gun, roared to life, their thunderous volleys shaking the very foundations of the city. Stone balls propelled with terrifying force smashed into the already weakened sections of the Theodosian Walls, reducing centuries-old fortifications to rubble and showering the defenders with deadly fragments of stone. For hours the defenders of Constantinople, exhausted but resolute, fought with the courage born of desperation. They repelled wave after wave of Ottoman attackers, their arrows finding their marks, their swords flashing in the sunlight. But the Ottoman army, fueled by religious fervor and the promise of plunder, was relentless. They pressed their attack, their numbers seemingly inexhaustible, their determination unwavering. And then, at a point where the walls had been pounded to rubble by the incessant bombardment, a cry went up from the Ottoman ranks. A breach wide enough for several men to pass abreast had been created. The Ottoman soldiers, their eyes gleaming with a mixture of fear and exhilaration, surged forward, pouring through the gap in the defences like a torrent unleashed. The fall of Constantinople, when it finally came, was swift and brutal. The Ottoman soldiers, their bloodlust ignited by the prolonged siege and the fierce resistance they had encountered, swept through the city like a whirlwind. The streets, once bustling with life and commerce, were transformed into killing grounds, the air thick with the clash of steel, the screams of the dying, and the triumphant roar of the victors. By nightfall, the once mighty city of Constantinople, the last bastion of the Byzantine Empire, lay silent, shrouded in the smoke of countless fires and the pall of death. The Ottoman banners, emblazoned with the crescent moon and star, fluttered triumphantly from the ramparts of the conquered city, proclaiming to the world the dawn of a new era, an era of Ottoman dominance. Constantine XI, Paleologos, born into the waning light of a once mighty dynasty, carried the weight of an empire on his shoulders. He was the last in a long line of emperors stretching back to the glories of ancient Rome, the inheritor of a legacy both magnificent and burdensome. Constantinople, the city he ruled, was not just a collection of grand buildings and bustling markets, it was the embodiment of 1,000 years of history, a living testament to the enduring power of Roman ideals and Orthodox Christian faith. From the moment he ascended to the throne in 1449, Constantine knew that his reign would be defined by crisis. The Byzantine Empire, once a vast and powerful realm, had been reduced to a shadow of its former self, its territories nibbled away by ambitious neighbors, its treasury depleted by constant warfare. Constantinople itself, though still a magnificent sight, its walls seemingly impregnable, was a city under siege, not by armies alone but by the inexorable forces of history. Yet Constantine faced these challenges with a courage and determination that belied the precariousness of his position. He was a man of deep faith, drawing strength from his belief in God and the righteousness of his cause. He was also a shrewd diplomat, skilled in the arts of negotiation and alliance-building, tirelessly seeking aid from the Christian West, even as he prepared his city for the inevitable Ottoman onslaught. He understood that the defense of Constantinople rested not just on the strength of its walls, but also on the spirit of its people. He moved among his subjects with a quiet confidence, offering words of encouragement to weary soldiers and terrified citizens alike. He visited the sick and wounded, prayed alongside his people in the awe-inspiring Hagia Sophia, and inspired in them a belief that together they could withstand the storm that was about to break upon their city. As the final Ottoman assault began, as the earth trembled beneath the thunder of Mehmed's cannons and the sky grew dark with the smoke of burning buildings, Constantine XI donned his armor, not in the opulent chambers of the imperial palace, but on the walls of his beloved city, among the soldiers and citizens who had chosen to make their last stand alongside their emperor. He had shed the trappings of his imperial office, choosing instead to face his destiny as a soldier, fighting for his city, his faith, and his people. His final words, uttered as the Ottoman tide surged over the shattered remnants of the city walls, have echoed down through the centuries, a testament to his courage and his unwavering sense of duty. "The city is lost, but I live." With those words he charged into the heart of the battle, his figure lost amidst the chaos of hand-to-hand combat, his fate forever shrouded in the fog of war. Whether Constantine XI met his end on that fateful day, cut down by an Ottoman sword or crushed beneath the rubble of his collapsing city, is a matter of historical debate. His body was never found. No tomb marked his final resting place. Some whisper that he escaped, spirited away by loyal followers, destined to one day return and reclaim his lost empire. Others believe that he died as he had lived, a true emperor, defending his city to his last breath. Whatever the truth of his final moments, Constantine XI Palaiologos passed into legend, his name forever linked to the fall of Constantinople and the end of the Byzantine Empire. He became a tragic hero, a symbol of courage and resilience in the face of overwhelming odds. His story a poignant reminder that even the mightiest empires can crumble, and that even the most valiant defenses can be breached. An eerie silence descended upon Constantinople, a silence heavy with the ghosts of battle and the weight of a fallen empire. The once deafening cacophony of clashing steel, screaming men, and roaring cannons had given way to a stillness so profound, so unnatural, that it seemed to amplify the softest whisper, the rustle of wind through shattered windows, the whimper of a wounded animal trapped beneath the rubble-strewn streets. The sun, no longer obscured by the smoke of battle, cast a golden, almost mournful light over the scene, illuminating the extent of the devastation. From the shattered remnants of the Edirne Gate, its once proud defences reduced to a pile of rubble by the relentless pounding of the Ottoman cannons, a lone figure emerged, his silhouette framed against the backdrop of the conquered city. Mehmet II, Sultan of the Ottoman Empire, the man who had achieved what generations of Muslim rulers had only dared to dream of, dismounted his steed and stepped onto the soil of Constantinople, now his by right of conquest. His face, normally a mask of impassiveness, betrayed a flicker of emotion as he surveyed the scene before him, a mixture of awe at the sheer magnitude of his victory, satisfaction at having overcome such formidable defences, and perhaps a fleeting sense of sadness at the cost of this triumph, the thousands of lives extinguished to fulfill his ambition. For 3 days Mehmed allowed his victorious army free rein in the conquered city. It was a customary practice, a reward for their valor and sacrifice, but one that unleashed a wave of looting, violence and destruction upon the once great capital of the Byzantine Empire. Ottoman soldiers, their blood still hot from the battle, rampaged through the streets, their lust for plunder fueled by years of hardship and the promise of untold riches. The houses of the wealthy were ransacked, their treasures carted away. Churches and monasteries, once sanctuaries of peace and piety, were plundered, their icons defaced, their sacred relics stolen. The air, heavy with the stench of death and the acrid smell of smoke from countless fires, echoed with the cries of terrified citizens, the triumphant shouts of the victors, and the crash of collapsing buildings as the Ottoman soldiers, drunk on victory and driven by greed, stripped the city bare. Yet, amidst the chaos and carnage, a new order was already beginning to emerge, the order of the conquering Ottomans. Mehmet II, his initial thirst for vengeance slaked, moved quickly to consolidate his control over the city he had so hard won. He declared Constantinople the new capital of his empire, a symbolic gesture that underlined his ambition to create a new Roman Empire, an Islamic one, that would straddle the Bosporus and rule over both east and west. He ordered the restoration of order within the city, bringing an end to the looting and offering protection to the surviving citizens. He invited those who had fled to return, promising them religious freedom and the opportunity to rebuild their lives under his rule. And he began the process of transforming Constantinople from a Christian city steeped in the traditions of Byzantium into Istanbul, the jewel of the Ottoman Empire, a vibrant center of Islamic learning, culture and trade. The fall of Constantinople sent shockwaves that reverberated far beyond the shores of the Bosporus. It was as if the world itself had shifted on its axis, an event so momentous, so laden with symbolic weight, that it marked a definitive break with the past, an irrevocable turning point in the course of human history. The old order, the world of Christendom and its Byzantine heart, had been dealt a mortal blow, its defences breached, its spirit broken. The news of the city's fall, carried westward by terrified refugees and opportunistic merchants, spread like wildfire through the courts and cathedrals of Europe, igniting a mixture of fear, disbelief, and a profound sense of foreboding. For centuries, Constantinople had stood as the bulwark of Christendom, the eastern bastion that held back the tides of Islamic expansion. Its emperors, though their power had waned, were still seen as the heirs of Rome, the guardians of an ancient legacy that stretched back to the very foundations of Western civilization. The city itself, with its magnificent churches, its bustling markets, its libraries overflowing with the accumulated wisdom of antiquity, represented a link to a world that predated the rise of Islam, a world that many in Europe believed they were fighting to preserve. Yet, from the ashes of this cataclysmic event, from the ruins of a fallen empire, the seeds of a new era were already being sown. The refugees who fled Constantinople ahead of the Ottoman onslaught, many of them scholars, artists, and philosophers, carried with them more than just their memories and their grief. They brought with them the intellectual treasures of Byzantium, ancient Greek manuscripts, works of art, and philosophical treatises that had been lost to the West for centuries, preserved in the libraries and monasteries of Constantinople like precious seeds awaiting the right conditions to germinate. As these refugees found sanctuary in the cities of Italy, Florence, Rome, Venice, they encountered a society ripe for change, a society beginning to awaken from the intellectual slumber of the Middle Ages. The rediscovery of classical learning, spurred by the influx of Byzantine refugees and the texts they carried, ignited a cultural explosion that would transform Europe, the Renaissance. The fall of Constantinople, by severing the traditional land routes between Europe and Asia, had a profound impact on trade. The lucrative spice trade, once dominated by Venetian and Genoese merchants operating through Constantinople, was thrown into disarray. This disruption, though initially disruptive and costly, forced European monarchs and merchants to seek alternative routes to the east, their eyes turning westward across the vast, uncharted expanse of the Atlantic Ocean. The age of exploration, driven by a thirst for knowledge, a desire for wealth, and perhaps a subconscious need to compensate for the loss of Constantinople, was born. Christopher Columbus, Vasco da Gama, Ferdinand Magellan, these were the new heroes of Europe, their names forever linked to the discovery of new lands, new cultures, and new possibilities. The world, once thought to be centered on the Mediterranean, on the old centers of power like Constantinople and Rome, was expanding at a dizzying pace, revealing its true size and complexity. Though the sun set on the Byzantine Empire with the fall of Constantinople, the city itself, like a phoenix rising from the ashes, endured. Renamed Istanbul, it became the vibrant heart of the Ottoman Empire, its strategic location on the Bosporus Strait ensuring its continued importance as a crossroads of trade, culture, and conquest. The city that had once been the capital of the Eastern Roman Empire, the last bastion of a fading world, was reborn as the center of a new dynamic power, its skyline now graced with the slender minarets of mosques rather than the domes of Byzantine churches. Under Ottoman rule, Istanbul underwent a dramatic transformation, its physical appearance and cultural landscape reshaped by the influx of new inhabitants and the imposition of Islamic traditions. The most striking change was the construction of magnificent mosques, their soaring domes and slender minarets dominating the skyline, a constant reminder of the city's new masters. The Hagia Sophia, once the grandest church in Christendom, its walls adorned with shimmering mosaics depicting Christian saints and emperors, was converted into a mosque, its bells silenced, its interior whitewashed to conform to Islamic sensibilities. Yet, despite these changes, echoes of Constantinople's Byzantine past continued to resonate within the fabric of Ottoman Istanbul. The city's ancient walls, though breached in the final assault, were repaired and strengthened, a testament to their enduring efficacy as defensive structures. The underground cisterns, those marvels of Roman engineering that had once supplied Constantinople with water, continued to fulfill their vital function, their cavernous depths whispering tales of a bygone era. And the Hippodrome, the ancient chariot racing stadium that had been the heart of Byzantine civic life, though stripped of its bronze horses and monumental statues, remained a gathering place. Its open space now used for festivals, processions, and the occasional display of Ottoman military might. The legacy of Constantinople, however, extends far beyond its physical presence on the shores of the Bosporus. The city's fall, though a tragedy for the Byzantine Empire, had profound consequences for the course of Western civilization, consequences that continue to shape our world today. The diaspora of Byzantine scholars, fleeing the Ottoman conquest, carried with them the intellectual treasures of their culture, ancient Greek texts, philosophical treatises, scientific knowledge that had been lost to the West for centuries. Their arrival in Italy, particularly in Florence, helped to spark the Renaissance, that extraordinary period of intellectual and artistic ferment that would transform Europe, laying the foundations for the modern world. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video and want to discover products inspired by history, epic battles and legendary warriors, visit our Amazon store. From books to collectibles, there's something for every history enthusiast. The link is in the description. Check it out and support the channel. See you in the next video.